Let us begin in prayer. Gracious God, we come today in a spirit of thanksgiving and celebration as we dedicate the Lindell Family Library to your glory. We are sincerely grateful for all those who have given so much in so many ways that we might celebrate this day in this place. We are reminded again on this day of the importance of the learning that takes place at Augsburg College, that we find foundations not based in intellectual certainty, but in uncertainty, not in the avoidance of suffering, but in the experience of suffering, not in self-induced confidence, but in admission of little confidence. Draw us now to you that we would feel a need for service, a need for reflection, and a need for forgiveness. Allow us to view each of our roles as vocation from you and to find fulfillment in them. Continue in this place to show us your ways, teach us your paths, and guide us in truth, for you are our God and Savior, and our hope all the day long. We pray this in your holy name. Amen. We now welcome William Frame to welcome you.
The Lindell Family Library is a wonderful achievement and a great gift to Augsburg College. It is not only a facility built without compromise, which is a very rare accomplishment in private higher education today, but it is an academic facility built to a design rendered originally by students and teachers, men and women, immersed in and dedicated to the great tradition of Lutheran higher education, and to the special mission within that tradition that God has evidently allocated to Augsburg College. It rose to completion behind a screen of residences dating from our suburban past, but it now stands revealed at the entry to a campus fully embracing its urban location and vocation. It houses and integrates an archive of the wisdom of ages past with the modern technological instruments that will help us apply that wisdom to the emergent conditions of contemporary life. And it literally reaches out toward its partner across the street, this building, to create the melded arch of reason and faith, beneath which all commerce in this special place occurs. The Lindell Family Library announces once more, this time with power and conviction, there is hardly a trace of militant modesty in that wonderful facility, that Augsburg College remains confidently dedicated to the provision of a serviceable education for life in this world, precisely because we know how to put reason into harness with faith. The welcome I tender you here is in fact a statement of profound gratitude from the college and from the world which treasures it. Thank you all for the great gift you have bestowed upon us. Thank you.
I'm Philip Quanbeck, the historical voice, just in case you missed that. President Frame, ladies and gentlemen, as I looked through the materials of my files in preparation for this event, I came across one folder titled Library Planning Committee, 1988. In it were a number of items, all of which, surprisingly enough, were related in some way or other to the task of the committee. Among them were minutes of meetings, one of which was dated January 17th, 1989. I hope you appreciate that discrepancy. And named Margaret Anderson, Boyd Kaler, Larry Ragland, Kathy Swanson, Marie McNeff, and myself as present. The persons on the committee represented a variety of interests and were excellent people with whom to work. And it occurred to me that one of the options for this short talk would be to read, for your delight, some of the minutes of those meetings in order to catch you up into some real history. Additionally, in this Pandora's box or file, I discovered the textual remains of a variety of other items, including surveys of various groups of students and faculty who would be using the library, bibliographies, articles about libraries, experiences of persons who had gone through the process of planning and building a new library, case statements, as well as a statement indicating what a library must have or must include. Another document was a paper by Agnes Tangyard titled "The George Sverdrup Library, a Story." Like many of you here, I have lived through 3 libraries on the Augsburg campus. I learned in this small article by Agnes Tangyard that in the year 1869, Augsburg Seminary, the year Augsburg Seminary was founded, it was envisioned that a library should be acquired by the seminary, and a subscription of $217 was taken for that purpose at a meeting in Moline, Illinois. I wonder what they would think today. Names bring to mind surprising and irrelevant memories. I was a student in the college when Agnes Tangyard was librarian. The librarian, as you recall, was in the southeast corner of what we now know as Old Main. But the recollection, and it's irrelevant, is this. Its irrelevancy doesn't prohibit me from using it. At that time, I was the proud owner of a 1930 or 1931 Model A coupe. My cousin Eileen Quanbeck worked as a student assistant in the library, and Agnes Tangyard, my cousin Eileen, and I lived in South Minneapolis, not too distant from each other. And on one rainy day, I volunteered to give them a ride home. As I recall, we 3 fitted ourselves into that Model A coupe, and the mission was accomplished. But for those of you who know what a Model A coupe was like, you will know that there was not a lot of excess space. Somehow I think that that's a metaphor for the movement from the southeast corner of Old Main to the present library. This afternoon, I want to take special note of the contributions of Margaret Anderson to the work of our committee. I have a memo dated May 19th, 1989, attached to a concept statement for the new library. She wrote, "Please review and let me know if there's anything you think needs to be changed. I will deliver it to the President's office next Wednesday, May 24th. As I recall, there was nothing I added or could have added that would have improved on it before that statement went to the President. It is with delight and satisfaction that I participate in the dedication of this library, to the planning of which our committee also contributed."
Hello, I'm Laura Pesa. I'm a senior here at Augsburg College from Menominee, Wisconsin, and I'm the student voice. I'm going to reflect a little bit on what the new Lindell Library means to the current students here at Augsburg College. To do that, I must go back to my first contact with an Augsburg College library. It was 4 years ago, and it was, of course, in the old Sverdrup Library. I was taking the tour, the typical tour for incoming freshmen, with my family, and as we walked into the Sverdrup Library, my dad, always the academic motivator, nudged me and said, "You better make this your second home, kiddo." As I started school that fall, I was prepared to make it my second home. That's what college students did. They pored over their books all day and all night to get their education. That's what I thought anyway. Well, when I started my classes and started studying in the Sverdrup Library, I found a problem. It seemed that, although I knew this library was probably years ago just as magnificent as this new one seems to us now, it seemed that for us in the 90s, we'd outgrown it. There was no place to plug in my laptop. After dark, it was impossible to find my literature books upstairs because the lighting was so poor. The stacks were crammed together. There wasn't enough room for the books. They were crammed in so tightly that the bindings were breaking. Quiet, solitary study was impossible. It always seemed that there was a study group quizzing one another loudly at the next table when I was trying to study alone. And then there were the summers. In summer, the temperature rose to what seemed like 100 degrees upstairs. A stale, moldy smell floated through, making concentration impossible. Of course, there were good things, a great collection, ClickNet CD-ROMs, and the staff of librarians that bent over backwards to help students. I used those resources, but when it came to studying, I headed to my dorm room, the study lounge, or the Perkins down the street. Now, with the new Lindell Library, that all has changed. Walking into the Lindell Library, students are bombarded with bright light, soft colors, and plant life. We can breathe here. We can see to find and read our materials. Different study options are available, lamp-lit tables between the stacks, group study rooms, private and soundproof, comfortable chairs and couches near large windows. We all have our favorite places now. I, who didn't study in a library for 3 years, have my own little niche up on the second floor where I can sit in comfortable chairs and look out over my campus. And of course, we've combined the music library and the IT services with our new library. Now, not only can we read books on a topic, but a student, say, doing a report on Mozart, can check out the musical scores, listen to CDs, watch a video of a symphony, or search for more information on the internet. For the first time in years, I, and many other students, am actually using the library. We students are grateful to Augsburg College and the many contributors and benefactors for making the commitment to bringing us this place. You have shown the students of Augsburg that you care about and are dedicated to our learning. And you have given us a second home at Augsburg College that we can use and be proud of. Thank you.
I'm Chris Kimball, representing the faculty voice, though I have to say I think it would probably be safer if I presented myself as a faculty voice rather than the faculty voice. Still, if our faculty speaks unanimously about anything or something, it is this new Lindell Library. What a library it is. Each time I walk inside, I find myself smiling. A smile of pleasure, of pride, of satisfaction, and still, 2 months into the school year, of surprise. Wow, this is ours. I'd like to say just a few things about what I think this new library means to those of us on the faculty who teach at Augsburg College, and I want to underline that word, teach. A library is the intellectual center of any college or university. And I think more importantly, it symbolizes how exactly that college or university lives up to its educational mission. In our case, as many, including President Frame, have noted, the siting of the library itself and the changes around it now invites the outside world to look in on us at Augsburg. And its location also serves to join learning to faith by the visual linking of this building, the chapel, with the new library. But beyond that remaking of the campus map, as important as it is, the Lindell Library serves Augsburg College as a place that is committed to teaching and learning. Libraries serving research-oriented universities quite properly count things like the number of books on the stacks. Teaching libraries at colleges like this one, however, have a different agenda. Their mission is to enhance and extend what goes on in the classroom. In the end, I would argue there is one measure of a college library. Does it work? Does it enhance the learning process? And here, just a few months into its life, as you've heard Laura Pesa just say, the Lindell Library is clearly a great success. Each time I go in, I am struck by how many people, students, faculty, staff, alumni, visitors, how many people are using the building. And there's another thing. Research libraries perhaps support the individual pursuit of scholarship. Teaching libraries support the collective activity of learning. And again, just walk into the library and see how many people are interacting in groups of various sizes, taking advantage of the diverse and inviting spaces intended by the designers and brought to reality. What this new library has done, then, is to provide the resources, physical, technological, organizational, and so on, the resources that support a long Augsburg tradition, a tradition in which the library and its staff have given unstinting support to faculty and to students. With this wonderful facility in place now, the donors that made it happen have ensured that teaching and learning remain the foundation upon which this institution rests, and they have made sure that the outside world knows it. In closing, I'd just like to mention by name two people who in the past years have worked especially closely with the faculty, who have, I think, in some fundamental way willed this library to happen, and who are now on to new and different challenges in their lives and careers. President Emeritus Charles Anderson and Library Director Elaine Klein. To them and to all those who made this library possible, thank you for this gift to the college and to the community.
Hello, my name is Sally Daniels. I'm the Director of Undergraduate Admission in the Day College program. I am also a graduate of Augsburg, class of 1979. I am very honored to serve today as the voice of the staff at the college. In the spring of 1978, my junior year at Augsburg, I was well on my way to completing my major in elementary education and my minor in, yes, library science. I was taking a very challenging class from Pat Parker. The 810 class, did Pat teach any other class but 810, was about, at least in part, of all things, designing a library for an elementary school. I was quite proud of my completed project. It included really important things like a card catalog and a nice quiet place to view film strips. It also included a reading corner with comfortable beanbag chairs where children could curl up with a good book. Was I on the cutting edge or what? Well, needless to say, nearly 20 years have passed since I was trying my best to design a library, and we've certainly come a long way since we depended on a card catalog and film strips to do research. I'm glad to say, however, that even though there aren't any beanbag chairs in the Lindell family library, there are lots of wonderful places to curl up with a good book. As an alum and as a staff member who works with prospective students and their families, I am so proud to be able to show off our new library. I've had 3 alums call me just recently asking if I would give them a tour. What an honor to be able to do so. Current students who serve as tour guides are so excited to show off each floor, from the curriculum library to the impressive surprise window on the upper floor that frames the cross on this chapel. Late this summer, my staff had the pleasure of hosting 30 guidance counselors from all over the upper Midwest who were touring some of Minnesota's private colleges. Augsburg was their last stop in a very busy week. Guess what building we saved to last? Their evaluations praised our beautiful new Lindell Family Library. On behalf of the staff, I thank each and every person who has made a contribution to this amazing new facility. We promise to enjoy, care for, use, and use, and use this wonderful gift. Thank you.
I'm Jackie Lind, and I speak as the voice of the alumni. I have now taken 3 tours of the new library, one wearing a hard hat with the other members of the Alumni Board of Directors, One with fellow alumni from Augsburg's Master of Arts in Leadership program, who, by the way, lingered nostalgically at the shelf supporting the official bound copies of our theses. And again today, when I sat for a few minutes in the new alumni lounge. On each tour, I've noticed that the new library is a place of links and curves. The building links the old with the new, links archives with laptops, links alumni with their past. It gave me flashbacks to the 1960s when I studied for a minor also in library science. And I also was a student worker in the library, earning about 90 cents an hour, verifying that every book was shelved in correct Dewey Decimal order. My goal during that job was to be able to stand for at least 1 hour in the book stacks on the top floor without passing out from the heat. A library building, though, is more than just a nostalgic link to our good old days. It reminds alumni of the link they can make with current students, providing internships, career advice, mentoring, scholarships, and recruitment. The Lindell structure is also a visible reminder to alumni that we are a vital link to Augsburg's future in assuring financial stability and academic strength for the years ahead. In addition to the links, this building is a place of curves. The architectural design prompts us to curve, to turn, to change. A library is a place of learning curves. Although I studied learning curves while getting my first Augsburg degree in education, I experienced a sharp learning curve while I toured China in 1992. I had just been learning from the Augsburg's MAL program how we do not understand our own culture until we have seen it in contrast with another. And I saw this contrast as I visited university libraries in Beijing and Xi'an. At one university, I saw a large, new library building, but it was mostly empty. During the 60s, while I was meticulously placing those Augsburg books in correct Dewey Decimal order, the books in this library were being burned. The emptiness of their new library building provided a space for their hopes. At another library, I met a senior professor who was expelled from teaching during the Cultural Revolution because he compiled a bibliography of books written in English. Before we could leave his library, he insisted on showing us with great pride his new collection of Western periodicals and business journals. And he took the time to read to us with enthusiasm every title in that collection. I admit that today on my tour of the Lindell Family Library, I paused a little longer at the collection of periodicals just to appreciate the titles. This building is a space to house our culture and our hopes and to prepare us as we learn our way around the next curve. It links alumni to past memories, to the needs of today's students, and to our responsibilities for Augsburg's future. The voices of all alumni are with us today in celebrating this new place of links and learning curves.
Jackie Cherry Holmes was not able to be with us today. She sends her greetings, and she's sorry that she could not be with us. I'm Marie McNiff, Dean of the College. And upon the appointment by President Emeritus Charles Anderson, was the chair of the Planning Committee for the Lindell Library. Now, having been an avid reader since the age of 5, having been a first-grade teacher, and knowing the great pleasure derived from both teacher and student when someone learns how to read, having become a user of the internet, information through the technology, and the front row is giggling because they well know how much I do use this. Having been a member of the original Library Planning Committee, as Phil Quanbeck testified, it's really with great delight that I'm here at this moment to share in this occasion when we celebrate what this building represents for the Augsburg campus. Within a building of beauty and exquisiteness, we have our heritage and our future coming together. The traditional book and the computer, making historical and current information available to students, faculty, and staff. In this library, there are parallel tracks of text, sounds, and images that bring information to the human brain. And as we enter this building, we see and feel the decree for us as lifelong learners to not only learn from, but participate in this storehouse of information by writing the future tablets and screens of knowledge that will be available for those who follow us. I have greetings from afar. Two national organizations wish us well. Barbara Ford, the president of the American Library Association, sends us best wishes, and she says, on behalf of the 57,000 members of the American Library Association, I would like to offer our warmest congratulations to the students, faculty, and staff of Augsburg College on the dedication of the James G. Lindell Library. The dedication of a new library building is not only a time to celebrate the completion of a major project, it's also a time to appreciate the wonderful opportunities the new library will offer to the campus and the community, and to celebrate the heritage, culture, and knowledge that libraries have offered throughout history. The Lindell Library will no doubt play a vital role in the intellectual life of the campus and will provide a valuable resource for students and faculty in their pursuit of academic and professional excellence. Congratulations on this significant milestone in Augsburg College's proud history. And we have wishes from CAUSE, which is now joined with EDUCOM. I think they made that history just this past week in Minneapolis. They had their national, EDUCOM had their national convention here. The President, Jane Rhineland, on behalf of CAUSE, I'd like to thank you for providing this opportunity to offer greetings and congratulations to you, to President Frame, and to the entire Augsburg College community on the occasion of the dedication of your new building housing both the library and information technology department. CAUSE has long recognized the synergy between the library and information technology as two integral parts of information resources overall, having been a founder and continuing sponsor of the Coalition for Networked Information since 1990. A cooperative project of CAUSE, EDUCOM, and the Association of Research Libraries was formed to foster working relationships between librarians and information technologists to advance scholarship and intellectual property. We're especially pleased to see a CAUSE member, that's Augsburg, campus acknowledge the linkage between the library and information technology in such a visible way as the creation of a shared facility. It's clear you are positioning Augsburg to better serve the college community into the future. Please accept our very best wishes and success. And I would just add a footnote to that because of Elaine Klein's future thinking, that Augsburg College stepped out into that future and joined library and information technology, and we're very grateful for that. And now, may I present to you Barbara Gage, Chair of the Augsburg College Board of Regents. Barbara.
President Frame, President Anderson, Augsburg is doubly blessed. We are filled with joy and thanksgiving for this wonderful new library. Isn't it fitting that a library is a place where the past informs the future? A few months ago, after about 3 or 4 tours of the library, Chuck and Kate gave to all the regents a wonderful t-shirt. And on this t-shirt was a quote. And the quote said, "I have always imagined that paradise will be a kind of library. However you think of it, I agree with Andrew Carnegie, who said, "There is no use to which money could be applied so productive of good as the founding of a library in a community which is willing to support it." You are a community which is willing to support this beautiful library. I know that Augsburg will use it very well. Each of you has given selflessly to this dream. I am sure that there are as many life stories as there are books in the library, but one of these stands taller than the rest in this effort. Indeed, if God gave eagle's wings to anyone, he gave them to President Anderson. He has run and not grown weary. Did you know that the eagle can fly faster against the wind? Chuck's driving force, his vision, his inspiration, his faith in God, and faith in each one of us. These are the foundation of this library. I believe the president's past illness served only to make him stronger and more committed to accomplishing his goal. Like the Apostle Paul, the thorn in his side served only to magnify the power and the grace of God. To quote Albert Schweitzer, "Sometimes our light grows dim, but it is blown into flame by an encounter with another human being. Each of us owes the deepest thanks to those who have kindled the inner light." President Anderson, you have kindled this flame, and you have inspired in each of us the willingness and the spirit to build this beautiful new building. A building that will, as each one enters, enrich their lives and give all of us thanks to the glory of God. So I want each one of you to join me in thanking President Anderson for this wonderful, wonderful inspiration.
Thank you. I'd like to begin with some words borrowed from Psalm 118. This is the day that the Lord has made. Let us rejoice and be glad in it. We come together today to do three things: give thanks, give recognition, and to dedicate. Each of these is a part of the whole, but with different emphases. Giving thanks usually looks back to events and persons and experiences. Giving recognition is certainly a current act, and dedication looks to future action and use. And our past, present, and future are wrapped up in this event. It is another bridge or linking moment in our history. I want to, from my perspective, give thanks to a number of people and to do something of recognition. We thank, first of all, the members of the Board of Regents. They have been very helpful, not only in guiding the school in its progress in the past many years, but also in participating and having leadership roles in the fund drive. And a thank especially to Barbara Gage for her leadership on the board. Not only this, but Barbara and her husband Skip and the Carlson Foundation have been strong supporters of the building and of many other activities of special interest to them. I thank her also for being characteristically gracious in her comments about my part in the project, and would repeat really the point I tried to make the event May 23rd, this valedictory event for Kate and me. You remember we were here for a long time and then went over and had lunch. Lunch was more fun. That was sort of a roast. This was a bit different. The point I tried to make there is that nothing that is really good in an organization like this comes from the activities of a single person. There are many people involved with their ideas, their work, in funding, and it's true in the matter of the library as well as in all other efforts at Augsburg. Having said that, I want to go on and identify a few people by name. This is always dangerous because some people will be left out, but the ones who are named would recognize, I think, that they are representing themselves and a larger group that have helped them. We've already heard from the chairpersons of the two library committees. I was involved in those to a certain extent, and Phil didn't mention one idea that I had, at least, I don't think it ever made the minutes, was to add a fourth floor on Sverdrup. We thought that might be possible. I thought it was a good idea, but I don't think anyone else in the world did. So we were not in a position to proceed, really, in terms of funding at that precise moment. In '88 was when this building was dedicated, and we couldn't bite off something else of that size. But the work of the committee was very helpful, and the one that Marie chaired. Marie, in that committee, as in everything else she does, encouraged campus-wide, that is, participation. And so more people feel a sense of ownership in the new library because they have had a chance to take a shot at it. They've had a chance to comment. And I'll come back to that when I thank the architects. Right now, we were fortunate to have the architectural firm of BWBR. I don't know what that stands for. Berquist is one. They are known for high quality work. They have proven that again. And the thing that impressed me beyond their architectural skills, which even I could notice, was the fact that instead of speaking only with the committee, the building committee, which was really pretty much what we did when we built this building, the architects would report to the committee and we would argue about it and respond. These people would prepare drawings, or they look like pictures actually, of both interior scenes and the exterior of the building. They were big things like this. And partly, possibly because of what the dean suggested, partly because of their own good sense, these large pictures were put up on the wall in a main hallway in the campus center, right next to the Marshall room. And attached to the wall next to it was a big sheet of newsprint with writing materials. So anybody who passed by, faculty, student, custodian, regent, anybody could look at the current picture and write what they thought was good or bad about it. And there was a little party last night that Kate and I attended, and I talked to some of the architects. They really paid attention to that. Some people felt the original picture of the north side, the side toward Riverside, looked just like a fortress. It looked like a box. The roof came like this and right straight down, and there weren't a great number of windows, and a lot of people commented on that. I think the curved roof is a result of that, and it's a marvelous addition. There were other things that were added, and these people were so responsive that, again, the sense of ownership, that people can come into that building and say, I suggested this. And maybe it's been changed several times since the suggestion was made, but that was a great, great addition. I know there's some people from BWBR here. Would they stand for a minute just to be recognized, not by name? They're back there, Kathy. Here we are. There. We were very fortunate in having the services of Krauss Anderson again. This is the third project that they have undertaken during my tenure here. They built the Foss Center, the Anderson Residence Hall, and now the library. Architects take needs and dreams and put them on paper. Builders take this paper and turn it into something beautiful that's on the scene. Leaders are important, and I don't know if Bill Yeager is here or Barry Yeager or others from Krause Anderson, but leaders are very important. But in my experience, the person who makes it all work, come together, is the construction supervisor. And I don't know if Denny is here, but I want to thank Denny Kugler not only for helping me see several times again the wonders of construction. I'm not overcome with tears. This is medication, pardon me. To see the wonders of construction, but for his unfailing good humor and jokes and poems that addressed our various problems. He had bad knees, and I had personal needs that were quite serious last year. The poem was a dandy. It was about growing old. It said, "The golden age is here at last." It's not the type of thing I could give in this type of audience. But I was deeply, deeply indebted to Denny, and I hope, are any Krause Anderson people here? I don't know. Somewhere? Oh, there. Oh, thank you. Okay. Bill and Barry and Ray, that's wonderful. Thank you for coming. I would hope that we can build some more and that we have a tie to you that will be maintained. I want to thank the members of the college staff, the persons who took time for weekly construction meetings with Denny and sometimes the architects who followed the whole process through and represented us. Michael Rannum, former vice president for finance here. Is Michael here? He's on somewhere. On the left, back in the shadows, finance people. And, of course, Elaine Klein. You'll hear from Elaine in a moment. If there's a moving force, it's Elaine. And finally, a comment of special thanks in regard to fundraising. This project is a part of the 21st Century Fund Drive, which is completed now. The first phase of that drive was chaired by Claire and Gladys Strumman, and the second phase by Alan Hausch. And I know Alan is here behind me. Are the Strummans here, or have they gone to Florida? Not Florida. Yes, they go to Florida. Thanks to them. And then to the staff. It is true that sometimes specific donors or prospective donors are given to specific members of the staff. You sort of develop a relationship over several years, and they're your people in a sense, but it's always a team effort. Even if someone belonged to me, the team was working up there with research and all the rest, and I want to recognize my partner in many ventures, G. Roy Carlson. Is he here? G? Now, briefly, a few words of recognition. Over 1,200 donors helped build the library, each giving according to his or her means. Now, givers are not judged basically by the size of their gifts, but by their intention and their capacity. Like the widow woman Jesus and his followers saw giving at the temple, some of these have given not out of their abundance, or as the King James calls it, their superfluity. They've given not out of their abundance, but all they had. There are numerous gifts of, say, $10 to $25 that are all written in our records and in our hearts. Our gratitude to these people is quite beyond measure. Some persons have had the financial resources to give more and have chosen a part or a function of the library to support. And they've had the opportunity to name a part of the building if they wish. Naming is an important thing in building, and I always think of two passages from Shakespeare that give different views of the matter. In Romeo and Juliet, we hear the question, what's in a name? That which we call a rose by any other name would smell as sweet. Something of the same sort of casual idea about names was expressed to me several years ago in less elevated language. I asked a new acquaintance, what's your name? What do you like to be called? He replied, you can call me anything you want, only don't call me late to lunch. In the play Othello, a different view, a name is given, one which I think of every time we are in the midst of a political campaign. Iago, Othello's servant, speaks. As is often the case, the villain gets the better lines. He speaks to his master and says, "Good name in man or woman, dear my lord, is the immediate jewel of their souls. Who steals my purse steals trash, but he that filches from me my good name robs me of that which enriches him not and makes me poor indeed." A good name is a treasure, and the new building is full of them, not filched, but given. Given for a variety of reasons: gratitude and thanks, commitment to a cause or a program, affection, to give honor to someone, a person or a family, to remember someone. Sometimes I think it's perhaps just to get the fundraiser to stop calling. There's a current TV ad that I like a lot. There's a little boy, he's sort of fat, and he is apparently the one who makes calls on the whole neighborhood. He's always out for something, hitting them up for something. One time he's in a band costume. He's got a hat and he's carrying a trombone, and he's raising money for the high school or the grade school band. Another time he's there, he's got chocolate all over his face, and he's selling cookies. And at the end of the ad, some of you are nodding, you know it, at the end of the ad, he's come again. Only the lady of the house has got the door shut and the shades drawn, and the little kid is out on the steps saying, "I know you're in there." Well, I'm a persistent fundraiser, and I have suggested to some donors, and some of you would recognize this, quote, "We have to decide this soon, or we'll both be too old to remember what the project was." No one has ever thrown me off the porch, and there must be some relief and joy when the decision is made. Today I have the pleasure to present a person who has never thrown me off the porch, who represents not only his own family. I believe there are probably about 19 here, 8 of whom attended Augsburg, but he represents also the 1,200 other donors to the library. A student of Augsburg before entering the Navy in World War II, a member of the Alumni Board in the 60s, a member of the Board of Regents from 1970 to 82, the first non-Lutheran on the board. We'll take help wherever we can get it. I first met him when I came here as dean in 1976, so he participated in the mistake or master stroke, depending on your attitude, that elected me president in 1980. He's a 44-year employee of West Publishing. He was the chief financial officer there beginning in 1986. He's a leader in the St. Paul community who has given generously in time and money to a host of causes: Ramsey and United Hospital, the Boy Scouts of America, South St. Paul High School, the First Presbyterian Church, to name just a few. His support of Augsburg has been substantial and long-standing, and we are all delighted and grateful that he has loaned us his good name for this building. I'm pleased to present Jim Lindell.
Thank you all for being here today. Jean and I, along with other members of my family, have really been pleased to be able to take part in this Augsburg celebration. And we did feel we worked hard with other members of the school, of the alumni, and with the community, trying to provide funds and do things that were improving the school and improving education for the children. This building campaign is really a happy moment because this is another successful campaign. We've been on many political campaigns. They're not all successful, but we are happy that we can take part of them and give our thoughts and our ideas. And this one, I think they didn't want much in ideas. I think they wanted more a future of funds. I'm looking at Charlie because he didn't worry about what I gave now. He said, think about the future, give for, it's going to be here for a long time. So we did that. As Mr. Anderson said, I got associated with Augsburg College, and after graduating from high school in 1942, I had a friend in my neighborhood, fact, he lived right next door to me, who went to Augsburg. And after I already had signed up at McAllister and a few other things and how to decide how to go on to college, he persuaded me to come over to Augsburg College and spend a day or two. That friend, his name was Marv Salsdorf, way back in the 40s, had many other good friends, such as G. Roy Carlson and Bert Sandberg and Claire Strumman. Well, when I met those gentlemen, and they were all big athletes, and they still wanted to talk to me, a skinny kid of about 128 pounds, but they still were very friendly, and we spent a day seeing the schools, showing you the classrooms, and also just walking around in Murphy Square. School didn't have too much other exciting things to do in 1942. As it turned out, I went home, thought about my trips to the other colleges, and somehow I just felt this school really had the friendship and the desire to have a good Christian college, someplace where you'd have high, really nice children, I call them children, but other students to be with you and sort of guide your life through how you want to do in future years. Well, I enjoyed my few years here, and then I got called into the Navy, and I left Augsburg and went away until about 2 or 3 years later. I came back, and I was very happy to again come over and visit Augsburg, because while I was gone, and I was overseas most of the time in the South Pacific and around, but the mail used to catch up with me. I had letters from Augsburg and from the alumni and from G. Roy and others, and it really meant a lot. So when I got back home, I again got acquainted with many of the Augsburg students and decided I would like to be able to help them if I can. Well, at the time, I was a young man, and I had a family, and I had a job, but I did find that through other friends at Augsburg, one day I was asked to come back and be on the alumni board. Well, that was a good experience. I had the opportunity then to meet with Oscar Anderson, and one day he showed up over at the West Publishing Company, where I was employed along with some real top-notch people from West, also were members here at Augsburg. And at the time, I really thought I better break the news to him, and I let him know I was not a Lutheran, but I sure liked what I seen over at the Lutheran College. And he said, well, this was probably part of history in the school, and Phil would probably know that, but he did have to go down to Texas, go to the church board and the school board, and get permission to extend the number of people on the Board of Regents by a number of 3 at that time. And lo and behold, I was in with a good group of 3. I had one gentleman was belonged to the Presbyterian Church, and I belonged to Presbyterian Church. And the other gentleman was a Jewish gentleman from Minneapolis, former mayor. And, you know, the 3 of us really helped that board, I think, because because no one threw us out, but they sure stopped. If you wanted to say a word, they would listen because you were out of the group. But it didn't take long when we were all part of the group. And when Chuck Anderson became president, he, again, through the driving force of Ray Grindy and Claire Strumman and G. Roy Carlson, you know, these people all worked close to the president on the inside. And next thing I knew, Chuck and I had lunch, and I was going back on the Board of Regents again. Well, that was fun, you know. They always needed people on the board who were working and had contact with the business people in St. Paul. And that does not mean they were continually looking for money. Most of the time they were, but but you know, it was fun. We had lunches together, and Chuck would come over to the Minnesota Club on a Saturday afternoon, and he could meet with the businessmen in St. Paul, and I was proud to show to the people in there that we had a wonderful president leading Augsburg, and he was only interested in making a better education for all students, including St. Paul, Lutherans, Catholics, Jews, anyone who would want to come and live a Christian life and with decent kids over at Augsburg College. And you know, when you think of all the schools there are in the world and the country, it's really nice to feel that you're belong to a school who has young people in heart. And that sort of leads on to the fact that when my son Jim, who is here today, the oldest of my children, decided to go to Augsburg, and I found Augsburg was a great time for him. His mother just died, and he had the opportunity to be involved with the hockey team, and one of the greatest coaches who helped the kids a lot. And Augsburg was a place for young people not only to get the friendship of home and friendship of students, but the ability to get a good education. Jim is now in Atlanta and been with IBM for a number of years. In fact, he isn't in Atlanta, he's sitting right down here. But in case you wonder what happened, why this place is so full, I think I have 22 of my kids here, either my own children or my grandchildren. And my daughter Vicki and my granddaughter is looking at me right now. She wonders what I'm going to say about her. But Vicki and her little son Ryder and my wife Jean, they are all here and are enjoying having me up here, sweating it out a little bit. But and I have my son Jerry and his 3 children. And the reason I requested these children to come, I think they're all good candidates for future Augsburg students. Mary Ann is the youngest, but we'll get you into Augsburg yet. We'll get the kids to work hard and make sure you're available to come back home here to Minnesota and go to college. Well, you know, I just start rattling on here about other things, but I do want to mention that being associated with Augsburg students has helped me in my other projects. I think Charles Anderson mentioned my being involved in South St. Paul in the Education Foundation there. We were fortunate enough 10 years ago to start an educational foundation with all the former students of South St. Paul, and have now $1 million endowment fund, and we give out $100,000 in scholarships to high school students every year, and we've done that for the last 10 years. So it started with nothing, but it's just the idea of getting out and knowing the people in the neighborhood and letting them know that you have something good, you're trying to help your community, just like Augsburg has something good, and you're trying to get it out to all of the people throughout Minnesota and the country. If they would come here and spend some time, they'd find what a wonderful place that we have. Well, I better get back to the library. I got a few notes on that. But at the library, the main thing is it's a place for education, and you know, that's what Augsburg is. But it's still, I hate to keep bringing this up, but it's a Christian college. Kids who want to be where other people are going to church and are trying to do things to help solve the world problems, but also the local ones. That's why I think it's so great that many of the young people go into the teaching field. And I'm looking at 3 of my granddaughters, grandson, son-in-law, grandson-in-law, who are teachers. And coming out of Augsburg, they are liked very well. Now, I've talked to their principals at their schools, and they are some of the better teachers that they have. Even now that they're mothers and taking care of their own little kids, they still teach, and they're doing a good job. Well, I was beginning to talk about some of the people that I met through being at West Publishing, working there, and who came from Augsburg. And some of them, I'm really happy to say, came because of the same gentleman, G. Roy Carlson. He's a very aggressive man. He had students who were graduating and had business degrees, and he would look them over real well and call either Ray Grindy or myself who were working in the finance and accounting department, and advised us that he had a couple of good students who did well, were good workers in class, and would be an asset to any company. And so between Ray and myself and others, we did have quite a few Augsburg students who did come work at our company, and I think did excellent jobs. But you have to really bring it all back to Augsburg College, who trained those students. You have to somehow get young people to know that they're there to study and work and accomplish something. They're not there just to fill up the space and go home with a diploma. We can still be proud. Yesterday when we read that the football team had won another game, I said, my gosh, how much better things can happen to Augsburg. They got all these people interested in the library, and now that they're interested in library, something else is going to show up in a couple of years, and they are all on the list. But then to have the team come through, my gosh, we really got it made here in the Twin Cities now. And so we hope we all get out and work for it. Well, let's see, again, looking at my notes, today we are especially honored that the library will carry the Lindell name because of the love for the school and the proud parents we are of grandchildren and children who have attended there. As I said, we started rolling by having our son Jim graduate in 1967, and since then 7 more members of our family have attended and graduated from Augsburg. And like I said, I have all these grandkids sitting here and sitting over here, and I'm certain that we'll convince some of them that Augsburg is a place to go. We may have to give them a few more trips to the library, but they'll be there. I wanted to say something about the building. That's why we were here, partially. But I do want to say that Augsburg had graduate students who are now out in business, who are really a big help on doing the library. And I guess I shouldn't be naming people, but Bert Sandberg was one of them. He came to me one day and said, Jim, I'm real good friends with the Krauss Anderson people, and I'd like to have you meet the president. So I came over to Augsburg here. I met with Bert, and he introduced me to the president of Krauss Anderson, and they took me on a little tour. Chuck Anderson and I have gone through many tours, walking through the mud, and both of us go back to work looking like we've been wrestling or something. But we wanted to keep track of what was going on, and we came over here quite often. And no matter what Chuck did, he would drop it and take me over here to show what was going on. Well, Bert Sandberg was the same way. Every time he thought he saved $1 for the company, he'd call me. He'd say, Jim, why don't you come over? He said, I worked with the president of Krauss Anderson, and we were over here, and either he or his brother be here, and we should have him tell us what's going on. And he would point out different things that through Bert that we had saved some money on. And I thought, oh my gosh, Bert is, on one hand, trying to get money out of your pocket, and the other, he's trying to give back. But, it was working out well. I thought he was doing a good job, too, of just being a friend of Augsburg's and trying to help me see what good people were working on this building. Well, I think I better start winding this up. It's getting late, but the world has changed a great deal from the first time I set foot on Augsburg. And the reason is because America is moving on, and we want our American children to be the top educated people in the world. And we have to, because the world is growing smaller, and people are able to get around, see each other more often. Communications bring you together. Air flights bring us together. Vicki came home yesterday for 2 days and going to fly back to Australia. And I can't even go over there in 2 months. I've been thinking about it, though. But, this school system is really important. And I just want to urge everyone here to take a good look at the library and things you have here, and be as happy and pleased as we are that you have given us the privilege of having our name on this building as the Lindell Family Library, some call it, and some the Lindell Library. But whatever you call it, it's a great place. And so my wife Jean and I really wanted to thank you for being part in this wonderful library and for having us over here to give us this recognition that you people all wanted to. So thank you.
Jim, your statement about family tells a lot about this fine institution of Augsburg. It really is family. I'd like to have your family stand up and be recognized. Would you all stand up and so that we can see them all? I joined the Board of Regents in 1989, not an Augsburg alum with no children having gone here. And the first meeting I went to, they announced that we were having a $64 million capital fund drive. And I said, ooh, wait a minute, I don't think I'm in the right place here. But you know, when they said, what committee do you want to work on? I said, I think I'd like to work on the one that I'd least like to do, and that's development. We had to ask for money. But what I have learned in the last 7 years is people respond. This is the Augsburg family. This is the Augsburg way. And it has been such a pleasure for those of us who have been involved, and I'd like to recognize the Board of Regents and the Board of Regents Emeriti who are here, who have been so involved in the process of getting this library dedicated today. Would you please stand up? I know they're all around here today. Would you please stand? If you'd turn to page 6, I'd like to just recognize the benefactors. Without listing their names, I would simply like to have you observe who have been the benefactors. They are the people, along with the Lindell family, who pushed this project over the hump. Our goal for this library was $15 million, which was the capital cost and the interest, a total of $15 million, and we have achieved that goal. And we wish to thank those major benefactors, but as you go through the pages, you'll see a total of over 1,200 people who have participated and have said, I want to be part of it. I want to be part of it. Chuck in the archives. Their names are going to be there. Now, I want to also mention one more thing. In case you haven't had a chance, we'll get your name on there. We guarantee you we'll give you that opportunity. And finally, as we look forward, I'd like to have you think about the mission. We really give to the mission of Augsburg, which is why I'm here. And I think of it in 4 words. Christ right in the center of it, in the urban community, with intentional diversity for service. Simply stated, you either go with that or maybe you go somewhere else, but that's what makes us unique. And we've talked to Jim and others about the importance of the next step, and the next step is building our endowment. We've worked hard on the buildings, but the next step is building our endowment to be able to provide a much broader education base for that mission that we have outlined. So we thank all of you that are listed, and we give each and everybody a round of applause for that great support.
Good evening. I'm Elaine Klein, and I'm the Director of the Library and Information Technology here at the college. I can't tell you what a great pleasure it is for me to be here today and to thank all of you who have had a part in making this dream a reality. To the Lindells, who have been wonderful and generous and also a lot of fun to be with. I appreciate the opportunity to get to spend a little time with your family today. It was great fun. A rowdy group, let me tell you. I would also like to thank my family who are here today. Woo, and I could get through this. particularly Melissa, who spent the year kind of contributing by staying home and caring for herself often when I wasn't there to take care of her. And for the support of my husband, Bob, and to my sister, Fredna, who is here, I'm very grateful. Family is an important part of what we do here at Augsburg, and it's wonderful to have my family be part of this great family. The other family with whom I work with a great deal is the library and the information technology staff. They have spent 2 years minding the store while I got to do some of these truly wonderful, wonderful things. So I want to thank them and for their sense of commitment and dedication. And I want to thank all of you who have made it possible for us to finally have a facility that is worthy of this wonderful staff. And those of you who are present, if you would you please stand and be recognized? Who? Some up there, no? Okay. As has often been the case the last 7 years here, President Emeritus Anderson stole some of my thunder. But as he is fond of saying, I have modified and adjusted. But I also wanted to add my thanks and my appreciation to the members of BWBR who are here, and for those that are not here that also worked very hard on this project, and to Kraus Anderson and the other subcontractors. It's been a wonderful experience. This library is the wonderful place that it is because many people cared about it and took care of it and took great pride and ownership in it. And it's been my pleasure to work with these folks, from the glazers who withstood 20 below temperatures to make the building airtight in the middle of winter, to the electricians who, as I'm fond of saying, measured 1,000 times and installed those lights once, so they were absolutely perfect. And as President Anderson has already mentioned, to a field superintendent, Denny Kugler, who is just absolutely the best, and I'm really happy he could be here with us today. Together, these folks have built a building that delights the eye, nourishes the soul, and expands the mind. And we are very grateful for the work that they did to make this building a reality. When people ask me how this building came to be, I always say there are two people on this campus that really caused it to happen. Again, the president stole my thunder a little bit, but I want to recognize the contribution that Mike Ranum made to this building. He did his magic with the numbers and made the bond issue work, and that's not the really glitzy part of stuff, but it really was extremely important. And it's because of Mike Ranum's insistence that this building be a building of quality, that it is the fine building that it is, and it's a building that will last, through, I think, most of the next millennium too. So I wanted to express my personal appreciation and for the library and IT staff to Mike Ranum for what he did in this project. Thank you, Mike. Now, the other person without whom this building would not have been built, you've already heard from and you've already heard about. But I wanted to add my thank you to Charles Anderson for your vision and your courage and your dignity and for giving me this opportunity. Thank you very much. Thank you.
I think we're about to enjoy a video. That's why the lights are falling. We have Sharon Rowling to thank for that piece of work. It was a long photographic experiment, wasn't it, Sharon? Thanks very much for that wonderful piece of work. We are now invited to the library itself for the dedication litany, and we will get there under guidance by ushers. I hope not through snow, but I can't see any longer whether it's falling or... that was an introduction, by the way, that Ann and I got to Minnesota today. But this is a far more wonderful introduction indeed, this whole event. So I take it we're on our way now? Yes, we're on our way, and I'm...